concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
I'm Joshua Bardwell. You're going to learn something today. Boom. Head camera. Good job, Alex. How's it going, guys? I'm Joshua Bardwell. You knew that. I already told you that. It was a weak opening to my live stream today. I need a super awesome intro where like the good Dr. Disrespect with rockin' music and graphic of me in a Lamborghini. I don't think that's my vibe. How's it going, everybody? Aaron Rossberry, so used to missing the stream, but glad you're here today, Aaron. Dusseldorf, Germany, says hi. Milan FPV. Tom Lorith, what's up, dude? Aztec Joe, welcome. Bernard Fox. Oh, Bernard Fox is actually asking a question. Wait for it, Bernard. We'll get there. Set the power to the same value. Ah, heck, Bernard. Bernard, the issue that you're running into is one of two things. If your video transmitter defaults to 20... I can't resist a good question. If your video transmitter defaults to 25 milliwatts, Bernard, the issue is smart audio is on your flight controller. So what will happen is the flight controller will use smart audio to set the VTX to 25 milliwatts. And then you'll like press a button and change it to something else. But then the flight controller sets it back. You might also need to unlock the VTX if it's like an Emax or a TBS VTX, but that's the issue. So yeah, not unlocked. So what you need to do is make sure your VTX is unlocked because it's actually not going. Funny story for you guys. So like TBS Unify VTXs ship locked, and you have to unlock them in order to get them over 25 milliwatts. But when you go into like Betaflight or Falco X and you set it to whatever, 200 milliwatts, it'll say, oh, okay, I did my best, but it's still at 25 milliwatts. Cricket FPV didn't realize. Cricket FPV thought that smart audio would unlock the VTX for him. and he never manually unlocked the VTXs. And he was like, wow, why is my range so crappy? And we were like, what output power are you at? He's like 800 milliwatts. And we were like, are you sure? And then it turned out his VTXs were all locked, and he's been flying on 25 milliwatts for like all this time and not even knowing it. So yeah, make sure your VTX is unlocked, and make sure you are setting the setting in Smart Audio. That's okay. So there you go. There's your intro. That's what we do here. Questions and answers. Here's what I'm looking at on screen. Got my YouTube chat, doing a little differently. I usually put the super chats on bottom, but whatever, it'll be okay. We got the chats and the questions right here. We got the super chats up here. So just so you know how it works, I try to answer. Stabby FPV is here. Stabby, let's mark her as a moderator too. Yeah, Stabby FPV is a YouTuber that I'm a big fan of. She makes educational content as well as good flying. I'm glad to see her in my chat. Hello, Stabby. So I try to answer as many questions as I can from the chat, but the questions go by so fast. Not me. What VTX is it? How you unlock it depends on what VTX it is. Yeah, Ray Allen. So what I really would just suggest you do is just search like TBS Unify how to unlock. It's a little bit annoying, but it's not the end of the world, and it's better to just watch a video of someone doing it because the instructions in the manual are a little confusing. So I can't get through my intro. I'm answering so many questions. So here we are. Got your questions. Your questions go by so fast I can't always answer all of them. If you want to make sure I get to your question, hit the $ down here. That lets you send a super chat, and we've got some super chats already coming in. You can throw a couple. You don't have to. Sal Mastropolo, thank you for Mastropolo. Thank you, Tal, for $20. You don't have to give $20. I certainly don't mind if you give $20, but if you want to just throw a couple bucks to get your question a little priority access, that's how you can do it. And of course, over here on the left is hello, my Discord. This is my Discord server. These are all my patrons in the Discord server. Hello, Oleg. Hello, DJ Pop. Hello, Chamer. Chamer has the unique honor. Chamer lives in Knoxville. I live in Knoxville, and me and Chamer were both in the hospital at the same time while our kids were being born. Literally like the same day. I think I left like the afternoon, he left in the morning. So I guess our kids are going to be friends now. I mean, they're like literally within a day of the same age. So, yeah, so we're going to get right to it as well. I'm going to get this intro as fast as I can because I have, look what's happening today here in Knoxville. The Knoxville, we have a tier 2 multi-GP chapter, and they want to be tier 3. And one of the requirements of a tier 3 multi-GP chapter is that you host a tech day. So that is happening right now, and I'm here with you because I wouldn't let you guys hang. But I am going to finish up the stream only 1 hour today, so I can get out there and do some stuff with the local community. So let's move right into the stream. And the first thing I want to do is I want to show you guys this. I will get to your questions in the chat, but I want to show you guys this. This is coming out this week, my review of the TBS Fusion. But just for you guys who are here on the live stream, I'm going to preview this for you. And actually, I suggest that you, like after the stream or something, I'm going to paste this link in the stream. I suggest that you watch this at 1440 resolution because the YouTube algorithm really mangles it. But I'll just show it to you here on the stream. You understand that the stream is reducing the quality a little bit. Let's see how these guys do. And as I always say, but in case you didn't know, this is not a DVR. I never use DVR for my tests because I want you guys to see this is a GoPro literally pointed at the screen of the goggle. So I want you guys to see what is actually on the screen. I don't want to let the DVR affect the results, which it definitely does. So, and I go out of my way to point that out because I see other channels using the DVR, and I'm so annoyed because the DVR is so much easier to use. And you can run, I own like 8 DVRs that I could test 8 modules at a time, but I convinced myself, other people convinced me that it wasn't accurate to show the DVR results, that you weren't seeing what you actually see in the goggles. And I was like, okay. So I bought a set of HDOs. I bought 2 sets of HDOs, and I bought 2 GoPros. And now this is so much more of a hassle, but I do it for you. It just annoys me that other people don't do it and they get just as many views as me. Enough whining. Here, let's check it out. This is a big metal show area in Chattanooga. This whole building is metal. There's tons of multipath. The quad is at 25 milliwatts, and I had the guy, TAC FPV was flying here while I ran the goggles. I asked him to go outside, fly outside, so we got some more breakup and interference and reduction in range. Hang on. I went by so fast. Let's back up here. Let's just put this at half speed. I feel like sometimes it goes by too quickly. Half speed. What do you think? What do you think? Ooh. It's ooh. First thing I noticed was, if you look in the upper left corner, the Fusion has lost its OSD. When we start, the Fusion hasn't... See, look at the OSD? When the OSD disappears, that usually means that the module has lost sync lock and is no longer able to do sync reconstruction. It has sort of failed over. This is half speed, just so you can get a little more perspective. And as we come through this weakest area, right around here, I think this really shows the difference more than anything. We're flying this brick on the left is very attenuating. It's showing, so I like this test because this area that we just flew through tests the sensitivity of the module, just the raw sensitivity through attenuation. And then as we're flying around the rest, we're getting a lot of multipath, and the sort of flashing on the screen gives you a perspective on how they are handling multipath. Oh, Tack says in the chat, I think this was a great test. Tack, I'm going to make you a moderator too. Don't abuse your power. I just tag people as moderator so I see their names in blue so I can like, oh, hey, he's here. Tack's a moderator now. Thank you, dude. Thanks for helping with the test. This is Tack's hometown. We reviewed his frame. That'll be coming out soon. So I got to say, I mean, I don't want to taint the result, but I got to say, I feel like the Rapid Fire pretty clearly won this one. This is just one test, and I feel like TBS kind of predicted that would happen. The results for the Fusion, not terrible, pretty good, but not at the same level as the Rapid Fire. Rapid Fire sets a mighty high bar, and it's mighty freaking expensive. So I have always said that regardless, I mean, if the Fusion does a good job, and it did a good job, we did some tests with other modules that I'm not going to show you right now in the interest of time, but the Fusion is beating traditional diversity modules like the Owl RC, in my opinion. It's a good module. It's not as good as the Rapid Fire, but I've said that as long as it's a good module, it's going to have features like Wi-Fi connectivity to your Crossfire module so that you can like interface between the Fusion module and your Crossfire system. So you could like change your VTX power and stuff from the Fusion module. There's a lot of reasons to choose a module beyond its pure RF performance. So I'm going to be working on my review of the Fusion. It's going to come out this week. Look forward to that. But here's a little preview for you guys. Yeah, lap timer. DMB FPV points out lap timer built in. That's something that I think Achilles has had. Lap timer is very cool. Very useful for like practicing at home. Anyway, so that's coming out this week. I also want to tell you guys, my review of the SkyZone Sky 030 is coming out this week. I know you're waiting for that. I am very impressed with it. There's only one thing left, and that is I compared the Sky 030 to my daily driver, which is an HD3, and I was like, holy crap, this is so much better. What have I been doing with my life? And then I wiped off the grease on my corrective lenses, and it got a little better, but not that much better. And so I was like, okay, OLED, all right, you got me. Now, I don't know why I didn't have that reaction when I first looked at the HDOs, but I was like, okay, I bought a new set of HDOs, and I was like, I got to compare the HDOs against the Sky 030, and I have a set of HDOs that I use for module testing, but I don't want to beat that up. I want to only use it for testing. So I got to do a couple more flights, HDOs versus Sky 030 head-to-head, and then I will be able to make a call as to whether the Sky 030 beats the HDO. And I got to tell you, the fact that it's even in the running means that it's pretty compelling. Anyway. Okay. Thomas Bird Jr. People have put the DJI FPV system into the TBS Source 1, but you have to remove one of the standoffs. You remove like the second standoff from the back and it'll go. Super Sigma, any updates on Fat Shark Bite Frost? No updates. Fat Shark has gone, they've retreated into their domain and they're going to be working on it, and I think it's going to be months before we hear anything from them. Well, they have to go back and do a hardware redesign. This is not just a firmware update, and that is going to, there's no way that's going to happen in less than a few months. So that's Fat Shark. And people are asking, does this mean that analog is dead? Like, is it dead? And I say no. And if you doubt me, I'm not joking. I literally just spent $450 of my own money on a new set of HDOs. Okay, if I end up not using them, then I'll just throw that over and use them for module testing, or I'll sell them or something. But analog is not dead. DJI has not killed analog. DJI is very good. That's a fact. But the price of DJI alone, it means that analog is going to have a long life yet. At least 2 years. You heard it here. People will still be using analog transmitters at least 2 years from now. Remind me in 2 years whether I turned out to be right or wrong about that. I just think the price difference, high-end analog, $500 for a set of HDOs, $150 for a rapid fire. High-end analog is getting close to the same price as DJI, but low-end analog for budget people is so much cheaper. Anyway. Have I tested? Gal Kramer wants to know, have I tested the new Next G1 HD system already? This is the R2 Tech Next G1 system, and I think it was Albert Kim who was testing that. There's Albert Kim, there's Oscar Leong, and there's Andy RC, and sometimes in my head, I don't remember which of them is which. Not like that I don't know them as different people. I'll just be like, I saw this video. Who did it? I think Albert Kim is testing it. He said, I'm testing this Next G1 high-def system, and I said, I tested it. It was kind of terrible. And Next G1 said, no, we fired all the engineers. We completely redesigned the system, and we'd be glad to send you an updated one. And I said, sure, let's do it. So I haven't gotten it yet. I haven't tested it yet, so don't know about that. Is RPM filtering worth it? Can you tell me more about it? Asks Victor Kropolis. RPM filtering, Victor, what it means is that the ESCs report the RPM of the motor to the flight controller at a very high frequency. Basically, as fast as the ESC gets motor updates, it reports the RPM back to the flight controller. Since the motors themselves are the primary source of vibration on the quad, if the flight controller knows the RPM of the motors, it can filter. It can have very targeted filters, and that's what RPM filtering does. It makes a big difference. It really makes a big difference on many quads. Yeah, it's going to be a big deal in Betaflight 4.1 for sure. Let's check out the Discord here. Let's see what folks are saying in the Discord. They're my patrons, so I may as well throw them a bone. Let's see here. When will digital be on Whoop? Asks DJ Pop. Thanks for being a patron, DJ Pop. When digital will be on Whoop, I will go on digital, says DJ Pop. That's the thing. Some people, I think that the DJI goggles, the thing is, they're not ready yet for 100% of your quads. Even if you have, let's say you're a normal person and you splurge on the DJI system. Okay, now you have one quad with DJI on it. Maybe you put DJI on all your 5-inch quads, your 7-inch quads. Okay, but you still probably have a 3-inch, a 2-inch, a tiny whoop that doesn't have DJI, and then what? You could have a ground station into the AV in. Some people have said latency is not as good on that. I still think, I mean, you could fly all your quads with the DJI goggles, but you couldn't control them. You can't control a tiny whoop with the DJI controller. I think the DJI goggles could theoretically replace your analog goggles if you were willing to use a ground station. But I don't know about the DJI controller. If you have any quads that aren't on DJI, I personally am going to pass on the controller. Because, like, I don't want to carry 2 controllers with me. So, let's see here. Somebody has to make a 3D printed GoPro holder to see perfectly inside the goggles. Yeah, DJ Pop, someone does make a 3D printed GoPro holder. I actually have my friend Jeff Simpson here in Knoxville. He has a 3D printer, and I ask him to do prints for me sometimes. So yeah, he's going to work on those. Alep FPV in the Discord. Thanks for being a patron, Alep FPV. My Tyrannus connects to my computer and OpenTX Companion works for my models, but the simulator doesn't work. Okay, here's the deal, guys. Listen up. If your controller just stopped working with your simulator, I have the answer for you. I'm going to be doing a video about this soon. But right here on the live stream, I'm going to help you out. This is a message from Kevin Holt. Damn, I always try to say this vowel correctly. I'm just going to say Halterman. Kevin Halterman. And he says he is the head liftoff developer. And he says there's been a Windows update that messes up the drivers. And basically it means that your transmitter stops working. Here is the fix. There is a fix. It's right here. I'm going to paste this PDF. Alep FPV, this probably is your fix. And I'm going to paste it into the chat for you. If your simulator has suddenly stopped working with your transmitter, that is the fix. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. How about the super chats? I had some super chats coming in. I'll knock these out. Thank you, Mr. Drones FPV for $1 in the super chat. Thank you, Andrew Moran for $5. He says, Lumineer JB2407 1750 kV on 6S. T5150 props, Armatan Chameleon TI frame. Is the T-Motor F45A going to suit my needs, or do I need the 55? No, I mean, Andrew Moran, the 55 is a little more durable, but the 45 is more than enough for just basically any 5-inch prop you can imagine. Even if you were running like well, it's a 5150. That's as aggressive a prop as you can almost imagine on a 5-inch. It's 5.0 pitch and a 51 diameter. I still feel like how many amps? Think about your battery. 45 times 4 is 180 amps. Oh, that's a lot. The ESC is nominally rated for 180 amps continuous. Is your battery going to deliver 180 amps for very long? I just feel like the only reason to go with the F55, and by the way, go with the F55. Like, I put the F55 on my Stingy build just because I was like, screw it. I just want the most durable ESC you can possibly imagine. But the 45 can more than handle the amps. Don't worry about it. Your battery will give out before you're running 6S. 180 amps at 6S voltage is just forget it. Now you're fine. Ho Operator, thank you for $5. Will the Nirvana controller fly the Eachine 220S without open heart surgery? What receiver is in the Eachine 220S? The Wizard 220. Well, yes, it will. You need to put a FlySky receiver in that quad. Put a FlySky receiver in it. The simplest thing to do, I can't remember if the 220 comes preset for PPM or S-Bus, but if it comes set for S-Bus, you can get a FlySky receiver that outputs S-Bus, so you don't have to rewire anything. Yeah, totally. Just depends on what receiver you've got. Pekka Johnson, thank you for €5. Yo, Joshua, I just bought my first micro, the GEP-RC Cinepro. Should I use the same rates as the 5 and 6 inch? Pekka, you can use the same rates. I use the same rates on my micros as I do on my big quads. However, if you're getting a cinematic quad, you probably want lower rates, maybe even as little as 300 or 400 degrees per second, because with a cinematic quad, you're not going to be doing a ton of flips and rolls, probably. I mean, you can, but that's not why you bought the Cinepro. So for a cinematic quad, I would want as slow a rates as I felt like I could get away with, because that makes the camera moves more smooth. And that's, of course, you're going to reel steady the shit out of it anyway, but I would usually use lower rates on a cinematic quad, maybe as little as 300 degrees per second. Whatever I felt gave me as much maneuverability as I need to be able to get the camera moves I need, but not any higher. License to drive, thanks for £2. More ethical, Crossfire, or more economical, R9? I can't. How am I going to answer that question, dude? Everybody has to answer that question for themselves. I fly Crossfire. I fly Crossfire. And I fly... The fact that I fly Crossfire, despite my personal history with Trappy, tells you something about how good Crossfire is. Because let me tell you what, there are definitely days when I go, please can I stop using Crossfire? Because I'm just tired of, like, every day being reminded of Trappy. Anything. Can I promote anything else? But it's so freaking good, and there's nothing else out there that's as good. So, I mean, facts is facts. And I never let my personal history with someone in the industry affect my treatment of their products. It's a good product. Okay. Shane Duggar, thanks for $10. Bernard Fox, thanks for $5. Taro Sassi, thank you for 100 Swedish kroner. There is no spoon. And Sal Mastropolo, thanks for $20. And I'm amazing. So we're caught up on Super Chats. Great. Ace FPV says, in the Discord, thank you, Ace, for being a patron. Between my flight controller and the Holybro Kakute F4, which would you choose? That's tough. But I would take the Kakute F7 over my flight controller, and in fact I did, just because it has more UARTs and the UARTs are simpler to use. The Kakute F4, that's tougher. I mean, I like my flight controller. My flight controller doesn't have an SD card slot. That would be a thing that might differentiate them for you. The Holybro Kakute F4, I'm 99% sure it supports iNav. If you wanted iNav, that might be a differentiator for you. Let's see. Can you flash the RXSR receiver with Jumper T16? Asks Mother Frequency. Thank you for 449 euros. I think so. I think it can flash. Yeah, I don't see why not. Sal Mastropolo, thanks for $5. I was flying with a metal 65 amp ESC, F80 Pro, and Cape Raider 6x5x3 props. Yikes. Well, I'll tell you what, Sal. If you're going to kill an ESC, F80 motors, 2500 kV on 5S. Jeez. Okay, you're a madman. Sal, 2500 kV on 4S is pushing it. 2500 kV on 5S is a lot. And then you're running the F80 Pro motor and 6x5x3 props. If the ESC didn't die, then I'm super impressed. Like, you're asking a lot of your quad, of your ESC. That's insane, dude. I don't know. I mean, is the ESC dead? When you plug in the battery, does it beep? If not, it's dead. Also, I mean, I almost never say, wow, that ESC is too small. But if there was going to be a setup that was going to push the limits of a 65 amp ESC, this might be it. Holy crap. 6x5, it's just like, okay, you've got the F80 motor, but at least it's not it's 2500 kV. Well, that's a little high for 4S. Oh, you're running 5S. Well, at least you're using like light biblade props. Oh, no, they're 6x5x3. Okay. Sprite and FPV freestyle, thanks for 10 PLN. I don't actually know what a PLN is, but Vasco Baloo, thanks for 379 euros. Is silverware worth getting into, flying micros? Vasco, silverware, people who fly silverware say it's amazing. I haven't actually tested it, but people who fly it say it's amazing. It is a little bit trickier to configure. It's different than Betaflight, but yeah, silverware, I think a lot of people consider that the gold standard, certainly for whoop-size quads. Okay, back to the chat. Jeremiah Drover says he runs 5S on his T-Motor F40 2400 kV. They're barely warm. Yeah, Jeremiah, but what props are you running? And they're F40s, not F80s, so that's a much smaller motor. I mean, yeah. Let's see here. Danny Lex, that's a good question. Danny Lex says, is there a way to tune PIDs less feeling-based? Absolutely, Danny. Hang on, Danny, I will... This is the Betaflight Black Box Log Review group on Facebook. If you're interested in PID tuning, definitely get into it. And what these guys do is they use a tool called Is it plasma tree? No, PID analyzer. Is that it? Is that what they're using? No. That's it. I think that's it. Let's just go to let's go to UAV Tech on YouTube. What is he using? I think it's Plasma Tree PID Analyzer. I think it's PID Analyzer. Plasma Tree has been sort of replaced by PID Analyzer. And this gives an objective way to tune PIDs by gauging step response. What I would suggest you do is I would suggest you start with this video from UAV Tech. And I'll paste that in the chat for you. PID Toolbox, thank you so much. Quadrophenia, that's what I was looking for. PID Toolbox. I just was blanking on the name. PID Toolbox is what you want, not Plasma Tree PID Analyzer. PID Toolbox is better. But basically, you look at the step response of the system and you tune based on that. There's absolutely an objective, not feeling-based way. And the great thing about what Betaflight has done is Betaflight has separated the PIDs from the feed forward. And I feel like feed forward is primarily used to tune feel, and the PIDs are used to tune mostly step response. So I think that's a great way to approach it. PPP Porch in the Discord, thanks for being a patron. Any plans for an F7 flight controller from you? Yep, we are in the final stages of quality check, and we'll be pulling the trigger on manufacturing soon. Yep. FPV4 Live wants to know if the BLHeli32 firmware for RPM filter is out of beta. FPV4 Live, what I heard was that the BLHeli firmware was basically done, but in the interest of just cautiousness, they were going to continue to call it a beta until Betaflight 4.1 comes out. So my understanding is that when Betaflight 4.1 comes out, the BLHeli firmware will be released about the same time, but that, I mean, you should do your research. It's still officially a beta, and there could be a bug, but my understanding is that it's essentially considered finished, and it's just sort of they're holding it back in beta out of an abundance of caution. Let's see here. What do I think of the FX Cats 4S motor, 2207 2400 kV? I mean, 2207 2400 kV is a pretty good setup. I mean, I do like that. It's $18. It's a mid-priced. Yeah. It's got a lot of yada, yada, yada. I mean, blah, blah, blah. All motors are the same. No, it's not true, but I would need to know more about the design of the motor in order to judge the motor. You know, like you can just look at the design specs for the motor and decide if you feel like it's a good value. But all this nonsense, this is just marketing, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really tell you anything useful. Smooth and high-resolution power band with a nice and punchy top end. Yeah, that sounds like it describes a 2207 2400 kV. Sounds about right. There you go. Well, you asked what I thought of them. Now you know. I'm just a hater, though. I'm just a hater. I hate everything. Hey, speaking of motors. So, speaking of motors, I would... What? What? Wait a minute. That ain't right. Hang on. Yep. 2208, baby. Almost. 2208. This just dropped this week. I'll be working on a review of it. I released a 2407 motor a little while back, inspired by the EFA 2407. We tried to sort of hit the design specs of the EFA 2407, and to be completely honest with you, my motor was more like a T-Motor F80 than it was like an EFA 2407. The reasons for that, you know, whatever. I still liked it. I still thought it was a good motor. But when they came back to me and said, well, you know, what kind of things might you change for, you know, if we want to do another motor? I was like, well, let's try a 2208. And I got to say, when I released the 2407, one of the things people said to me was, Kebab says 2208 is better. And I was like, And I like 2207 better than 2306. So I thought maybe I would like a taller stator motor rather than a wider stator motor. So I was like, well, let's try a 2208. And we tested them, and I like them a lot. Which do I like better, 2407 versus 2208? I'm not sure yet. I'll tell you what, though. One of the things we were able to do, I didn't realize this until I got into designing or helping to design motors. I didn't really design the motors, but I gave feedback on what kind of criteria, how I wanted the motor to perform. You can't just have arbitrary kV. The number of magnets and the number of poles and the number of winds around the magnet determine the kV. So to change the kV, you either have to change the magnet strength, which is difficult to do, especially you can't just, they may not have the exact magnet that you want, or they may need to buy like 1 million of them, and it costs too much money. So basically, you can add or remove a winding on the poles to change the kV, and the kV goes up or down in increments. So my 2407 motor hit 2500 kV. The next kV down was like 2325 or something, and that motor felt underpowered to me. So we went with 2500 kV. But some people felt that the 2500 kV Bardwell motor was a little too hard on the batteries, especially if you weren't careful with your weight. So with this motor, we were able to hit 2400 kV, which that's really the kV I wanted from the 2407. So I'm happy with this. If you like a big stator motor, but you thought the 2500 kV 2407 was a little bit too hard on the batteries, this one is a little easier on the batteries. And that alone might tip the scale for me to liking this motor a little better than my 2407. So anyway, a little prog there. Ciati points out 2300 kV would be great for 5S. Oh yeah, no, I got to tell you, I sent the 2300 kV prototypes of my first 2407 motors. I sent those to Ryan Harold to test, and he said, you might have just invented the best 6-inch prop motor I've ever seen. And I said, that's fine, but that's not actually what I wanted. I actually have those 2300 kV prototypes on my 6-inch rig right now, still running them. So Stars wants to know if my Fat Shark's hydro dipped or what. Stars, my Fat Shark HD3s have a Cerakote coating on them. It's a ceramic coating. The guy that did it, he actually works in a shop. They usually do guns. People will get their gun parts coated with this really hard coating for durability. He said he would be happy to do your goggles, but you have to buy the case, and the case costs like $30. You have to send him the case, he'll coat it, he'll send it back to you, and you have to swap the goggles. And it costs, he said it would cost about 60 or 80 bucks depending on the color you picked for him to do it. So all told, you're going to be in like over $100 to get the coating put on. He graciously did it for free for me. I just had to buy the case. If you're interested in that, it is a really good looking and really durable color. It's more durable than a Hydro Dip, but it's going to cost a fair amount of money. If you're interested in that, email me. I'll put you in contact with the guy. Ciati is asking about the iFlight. Oh, what? It's 1507. It's not 1506. It's 1507. They told me 1506. Well, anyway, Ciati, that might be the motor that they're talking about for our 3-inch Acrobrat build. That might be it. They said 1506, but maybe this is. I mean, I can't imagine they're going to have a 1506 and a 1507, right? I'm hoping they'll get that so we can get started on that build. Havzudin Mustafi wants to know, what do you recommend for a long-range 6S 7-inch build? So for long-range, I would be focusing on a much lower KV. Assuming 6S, the maximum KV I'd be looking at was about 1750 kV. You can go higher. You can easily run 6S 1900 kV. However, on a 7-inch prop, you don't want to have such a high KV. And for long-range cruising, you want lower KV for not necessarily more efficiency, but certainly less amp draw. So the problem is that 6S 5-inch is so popular. There's tons and tons of motors in the range of about 1600 to 1750 kV. Ideally, for a 7-inch long-range 6S rig, I'd want something even lower than 1600, maybe 13 or 1400 kV. You wouldn't get a ton of power, but you get much longer flight times. I think that probably the best thing to do is to look for a 6S 1600 to 1750 kV motor, and then use a throttle limit to sort of take that down in RPMs, or just be careful on your throttle. Don't go crazy on your throttle. That's what I think I would do. Henrik Jensen, thank you for 20, I think they're Danish kroners, DKK. Will I review the SkyZone Sky 030 OLED? Yep. I'm working on my review of it. This week it's going to come out. That's the answer. Teddy B, can I do a setup video for 4S iFlight Nazgul 5? Yes. Teddy B, the Nazgul 5 is coming to me. I'll be doing a review and a setup video on it. Yes, I will. Machine FPV wants to know about PID recommendations. That's a little tougher. It's really hard to just guess what the PIDs might be for that setup. Ken Simmons, thank you for $2 in the super chat. I better get these super chats. I'm going to lose them. Any thoughts on the new PowerPlay DVR? Yep. In fact, they actually sent me one of these a little while back and told me not to talk about it. But apparently, it's out for pre-order. This thing is a screen and DVR. It's got a bracket that lets you put it on the back of your head strap if you like. Lets people behind you like look at what you're seeing. And it has 18, I think 550 batteries in it. So it has lithium batteries in it, and it powers your goggles. It's got an on-off switch. Yay! So it's basically a battery pack and screen and DVR all at once. It's an H.264 60 FPS DVR. This is very, very compelling for a lot of people. The fact that it's a DVR and a battery pack and a screen all in one, it's a hell of a thing. I will say, I have been using the Luminaire DX600 DVR as my field recording. Oh, interesting. They have another one. I've been using the DX600 DVR as my field recording setup, and it's quite good. It doesn't have a built-in battery. It does have a battery, but only for itself. It doesn't power the goggles, and the recording I don't think is H.264 60 frames per second. The one thing this does have going for it that I like a lot is that it has a built-in microphone, and it can record local audio. And I asked, when I saw the prototype of the PowerPlay, I said, can you please do that? Because the ability to record local audio means it's easy to sync up the DVR, and I can record myself talking. And this, as far as I know, this doesn't do that. It has an AV input, so maybe it could like use it with an external mic. But this is gonna. There are some people who are gonna look at this and go, $90 for that? Give me a break, get out of here. And there are a few people who are gonna freak out and very, very much want it. So you should easily see which of those you are, I think. Bad Habit RC, thanks for $5 in the super chat. I converted the JB Parallel 3S board to a 2S by changing the pin. Do I need to change the fuses? Nah, don't worry about that. You don't need to change that. Red Q, thank you for €5. I have a 1606 4000 kV motor on 4-inch. I use 75% limit, but I want lower kV. Can I change one motor at a time? I mean, I guess. It's not the best thing, but I don't think anything's going to break, but your quad might fly worse. Hey, Siati, I just remembered. Siati, you better get ready, dude, because I'm actually only doing an hour today. So if you want to come on right after me, you're going to have to start in like 20 minutes. If you want to like just start at the normal time, that's fine too. Just let me know. Yeah, I'm only doing an hour today. In case you just got here, we have a local tech meetup today at 12 to 6 p.m. and I wanted to make sure I got out there and help the local guys out, so I'm cutting the live stream short at only an hour today. Hope you guys understand. Martin K, thank you for €5, my bad, in the super chat. Do you know anything about the Sky 030 module cover / extension? I do. I will show you what I know about it. Where is the... I have to find it. Sorry, guys. So I have a couple of pictures. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to show you the pictures, but what the heck, let's live dangerously. So this is a picture that I have of a prototype of how it will go together. I hope nobody gets mad at me for showing this. The idea is that the SkyZone Sky 030 is a great goggle, but it doesn't work with rapid fire. So what should you do? Well, if you want to slap a rapid fire or any other module on top of your goggle, here is a thing that they're working on. It's big. It's big. Charlie Avery, hey Josh, do you check your Instagram DMs ever? Charlie, I'm sorry to say I don't. I try to answer as many messages as I can, and Instagram is just no good for the kind of back and forth conversation. It's very hard. I don't know. Part of it is that you can only do it on mobile, I think. I'm not sure, but it's very hard for the kind of back and forth conversation I tend to have with people where we're troubleshooting an issue. And so, and I just don't post on Instagram. I seldom am on Instagram at all. So unfortunately, I just ignore my Instagram DMs almost entirely. You are more than welcome to get in touch with me on Facebook or via email. I will definitely, I answer almost every one of those. I'm not joking. But I just have to draw the line somewhere. And unfortunately, Instagram DMs are where they are. LED Chicken FPV, thanks for $10. Is it possible to set up arming and idle up like steel with KISS in Betaflight? I think what you mean is the way that he arms and the motors are spinning but the PID loop isn't active. It is possible to do that. There's a setting, PID at min throttle, where when you go to 0 throttle, then the PID loop isn't active. The problem with that is that if you enable that option, you can arm the quad, the motors spin, but the PID loop isn't active. But then while you're flying, if you lower the throttle, then the quad just sort of falls out of the air because it's no longer, the PID loop isn't keeping it flying anymore. So what you then have to do is use an idle up switch to raise the throttle slightly in the Tyrannus so that the PID loop stays active. You can do that. I don't like it. I don't like it because, like, why do you want to do that? When I arm and the motors are spinning, that's the sign that the quad can hurt me. So this idea that, and I'm not criticizing Steele. He's a pro. He can do what he wants. And as far as I know, his quadcopters never cut him. So he clearly has demonstrated that he's able to do this safely. But I'm not sure why you would want to do that. What are you going to get out of that? The ability to do hand launches? Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Spritney FPV Freestyle, thanks for 10 PLN. I'm being told those are Polish monies. Thank you for that. No question, just. Alrighty. Alright, Ciotti is posting his live stream. Ciotti's live stream will be starting in 15 minutes. In case you don't know, Aaron Ciotti is, first of all, just a damn nice guy and good looking too. Let's just get that out of the way. But also very knowledgeable about quads, especially in the micro domain. If you have questions about micros, I'm trying to learn. Micros are no longer, I just can't ignore them anymore. They've never been my favorite, but so many people are flying them. I'm like, okay, I need to get on this micro train. And Ciotti is one of the people I turn to for advice. I really appreciate his help. One day I'll know everything about micros and I won't need him anymore. But until then. I'm joking. So he had so much fun on my live stream. He's doing his own live streams. His will be starting in 15 minutes. I will be finishing up and going to the park. So he's posting a link to his live stream in the chat if you guys want to raid him after me. Thomas Bird Jr. asks, Betaflight D-Shot 2400. Betaflight is dropping support for D-Shot above 600. D-Shot 1200, 2400. Betaflight will no longer support it. Now, the guys over at Flight 1 are like, that's a terrible mistake. I think it's a different philosophy. The Betaflight devs have also dropped support for 32K gyro sampling, at which point I agree that there's not a compelling reason to use a higher frequency of D-Shot. The whole point of D-Shot 1200 was that D-Shot 600 is not fast enough to run at 32 kilohertz. You need D-Shot 1200 to run at 32K. The problem is that the higher D-Shot frequencies are more susceptible to noise. I've had quads where I had bad video noise or desync problems at D-Shot 1200, but when dropped to 600, it was all fine. That's an extreme example. It's not typical, but the flip side is I've tested quads at D-Shot 1200 and 600, and I guarantee you I could never tell the difference in a blind test. That's just me. You give it to somebody like Alex Vanover, and maybe he could tell the difference. But so I was just like, I'm just going to stick with 600. Apparently, the Betaflight devs agree. So yeah. Ken Heron, thank you for $10. Ken is another YouTuber. He's got his own channel, and he does a lot of content about photography drones like DJI, but also some FPV content. He graciously had me on his channel for an interview. He has a Thursday night live stream. Ken and I'm hoping to collab with him. We have some ideas for a video we might do together. I just got to figure out when it's going to be. Ken, I haven't forgotten about that, by the way. Ken asks how many quads I have in the room. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I would say, I mean, I've got like 5 quads down there that I'm doing a giveaway for on my Patreon. But not counting those, I still think I have probably 15 or 20, including the micros. Prince Albert wants to know how my quads are hung on the wall. Prince Albert, look up command hooks are what they're called. It's a silly name for them, but command hooks. They stick to the wall, and then with a rubber band, I just pass it around the motor to hold them on the wall. Who makes them? 3M command hooks. That's the name of it. Why can't they just leave it as an option, though? Well, the answer is that having these options in Betaflight adds coding overhead. It adds overhead. They have to test it. They have to make sure it's stable. And the big reason they cut it out, I'll tell you why. The big reason they cut it out is RPM filtering is a new feature in Betaflight 4.1. It's a big freaking deal, and it's going to make everybody's quads fly way, way better. That's the promise. There's some truth to it. Like, it's a big, big deal. But getting RPM filtering to work on all flight controllers is difficult. There used to be code snippets you had to paste into your CLI, and sometimes it still didn't work. They got RPM filtering working using a software approach that will work on every flight controller. So now you just click a button, RPM filtering works. But it can only work so fast. And so I think that was the final straw for D-Shot 1200. If they can get D-Shot 600 with RPM filtering working on every flight controller at the click of a button, that's more than worth giving up D-Shot 1200 for. And that's why. That's why they don't just leave it in, because it takes effort to maintain the code. Black Raised FPV, thank you for 50 Swedish kroner. Do you have any good recommendations for a 7-inch frame that can carry a WG2 gimbal? Oh, that is hard. I got to tell you, I mean, by the time you start talking about gimbals, I guess you can slap a gimbal on almost anything, but by the time you start talking about gimbals, I start thinking about more. Yeah, I don't know about that, my friend. I don't know about that. Most of the frames that we've got, I mean, I start thinking about a traditional, like a DJI flame wheel style frame, not a traditional FPV style frame by the time you got a gimbal on there. Tom in the Patreon, thanks for being in the Discord. Let's try again. Tom in the Discord, thank you for being a patron. Tom asks, could you tell the difference between BL Heli S and BL Heli 32? I'll tell you what, Tom, a properly tuned and flying quad, I doubt I could tell the difference between BL Heli S and BL Heli 32. BL Heli S can fly it just as good as BL Heli 32, but here's the thing. Let's say you have a quad that has mid-throttle oscillations. BL Heli S has almost nothing to deal with that. Whereas BL Heli 32 lets you change the motor PWM frequency, and that can be one of the most powerful tools for fixing mid-throttle oscillations. BL Heli 32 has additional tools in the toolbox to fix problems that BL Heli S doesn't have. Interestingly, Joe Lucid, who's a Betaflight developer, he has been working on a thing called, what are they calling it? What is he calling it? Hang on. JESC, that's what they're calling it. JESC. And basically, it's a firmware he came up with that... Hang on. I got to find a page for you guys. There we go. He's come up with JESC. It's a firmware for BLHeli S ESCs that lets them support additional stuff that the BLHeli devs never put in. One of them is bidirectional D-shot. So you can take advantage of this new feature of Betaflight 4.1. And I have heard some rumbling that he's also got support for changeable motor PWM frequency, which BLHeli S never had. So he's doing some work on getting these features into BLHeli S. But for the time being, BLHeli 32 is the one that has it. Anyway. Let's see here. Quadrophenia points out he will enable 48K for BLHeli S. But the thing is, 48K is not necessarily better than 24. You actually need to be able to sort of move the knob around because the exact right PWM frequency that's best for any given quad will vary. Leighton Lance says, how do I change my camera OSD? Leighton, I think you mean the built-in OSD that comes with like a Runcam or a Foxeer camera. The way to do that is to plug in the joystick adapter and hold the up button for about 2 seconds. There's a separate menu for the camera OSD that people don't know exist. DJ Pop wants to know, can you flash JESC to a 4-in-1? Does it count like one ESC? No. So Joe Lucid wants to be paid for his efforts, and he charges like $1 a piece for the JESC firmware. If you got a 4-in-1, you're going to need 4 of those, obviously. Let's see here. Joe Ryan, thanks for $5. Leighton Lance, thanks for $5. Says, help, I have info at the bottom of my OSD on my Emacs Buzz. I can't figure out how to get rid of it. Leighton Lance, that's probably the camera. They probably shipped the Emacs Buzz with the camera OSD turned on. Plug the joystick into the camera and hold the up button for about 2 seconds. You'll get to a menu where you can turn off the camera OSD. Manufacturers, please stop doing this. Manufacturers, if you ship a ready-to-fly or a bind-and-fly with a Betaflight OSD, turn off the freaking camera OSD. Like, I know, the thing is, they would have to ask Runcam or Foxeer or Caddx to sell them cameras with the OSD turned off. And they don't want to do that. They just want to pull 1,000 of them out of inventory and send them over. It's a pain in the butt. But it's such a pain in the butt for your customers. I see so many people flying with the camera OSD turned on because they don't know how to turn it off. Turn it off for them. They don't need it if they have an OSD on the quad already. Stabby FPV. Stabby, thank you for $5. I've been using stock ESC settings, but I've seen some noise about setting them up for performance. What do you do on yours? Stabby, what I do on almost all my quads is in BLHeli, I set the motor PWM frequency to 48K, and I set the timing to auto. To me, this gives the smoothest freestyle settings in most cases. If I have mid-throttle oscillation, I may change the motor PWM frequency between as low as maybe 16K and as high as 48K. Again, the exact value that works best may differ. But those are my starting point, 48K PWM and auto timing. For power, for more power than smoothness, you can set the timing to like 22, 23 degrees, and that may give a little bit more consistent power, but a little less smoothness potentially. Copter Flight says, on my Tyrannus, I installed a Lua script to make changes to PIDs, etc. There's an option to change the output power of the VTX, but it doesn't match the options on my VTX. Any thoughts? Yeah, that's a great question, Copter Flights. The problem is that the smart audio settings in the Lua script are based on the original TBS Unify. So the output power is 25, 100, 200. I'm not sure. I can't remember the exact settings. But that doesn't match all of the other VTXs that are out there that use smart audio. For now, the way it works is, let's say that the smart audio menu goes 25, 50, 100, 200, 500, 800. And your VTX goes 25, 200, 800. Well, basically just the first, second, and third options on the Unify menu. Basically, it's up to your VTX. Smart Audio says, give me 200 milliwatts, and your VTX goes, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And there's no way for you to really know unless you have an output power tester like the Immersion RC RF power meter. There's no way for you to really know what the actual what it's actually doing, especially if you try to set it to an output power that it doesn't support. Like if it only goes up to 500 and you set it to 800, what'll it do? Well, some of them will go to 500 and just sit at the max. Some of them will go to 0. Some of them just stop working. Betaflight 4.1 will have a feature called VTX tables. VTX tables means that you can go in the CLI and manually tell Betaflight what your VTX supports, what channels and output powers it supports, and then it'll always match. The downside of this is that Betaflight 4.1 will ship with no VTX table configured. At least that's what I've been told. Which means that when you first try to use Smart Audio in Betaflight 4.1, you'll just see a message that says no VTX table configured, and it won't do anything. You'll need to basically paste a code snippet to get it working. So that will be fixed in 4.1, but it's basically a crapshoot right now of exactly what the VTX does with that information. Okay. All right, guys. It is 1:57. They're coming up on the end of the stream. It is going to be only an hour-long stream today because we are having a local tech meetup here in Knoxville that I'm going to go out and lend some of my, hopefully, knowledge to help some of the local guys. So we're going to wrap up the stream today. Let me make sure I get all the rest of the super chats out of the way. Thank you, LED Chicken FPV, for $2. That's it. Aaron Ciotti is going to be starting a stream. Aaron, post your link again, please, here in the chat. Aaron Ciotti is going to be starting his stream early. Thank you, Aaron, for doing that. You guys can go on over there and check. Yeah. 2 extra hours coming at you, folks. There's the link to his stream. Yeah, Mastery, why does it not just toggle what's available? I'm with you, man. Smart Audio is capable of reporting its own capabilities. So Betaflight could, and Crossfire does this, Betaflight could ask the VTX, what do you support? And the VTX goes, here's what I support. I think Betaflight devs' concern is that many third-party VTXs that support Smart Audio don't do that correctly. Whereas Crossfire only is compatible with Unifies, and they're like, oh, screw everybody else. The Betaflight devs can't do that. All right, guys. Thank you for Gaptooth Granny. Thanks for $5. We're going to wrap up here. Thank you guys for being understanding about the short stream. And thanks for Aaron Ciotti for picking up my slack, dude. Go throw some super chats at him. Talk to him about micros. Talk to him about whatever. And I'm going to get out of here. I will see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, my normal Monday evening stream. And look forward this week to my review of the SkyZone Sky 030 and the TBS Fusion, as well as many other good things. That's going to do it, guys. Happy flying, everybody.